Welcome to the Scale SaaS Podcast. Today's topic hits at the heart of business growth, talent. Everyone talks about funding, funnels, and features, but few realize that your biggest growth lever isn't your tech stack. It is your talent strategy. Let's look at the numbers. The GCC SaaS market is already worth over 6.2 billion in 2025, projected to reach 9.3 billion by 2030. Yet 70% of tech companies in the UAE and Saudi say they struggle to find senior go-to-market roles, especially in sales, RevOps, and customer success. Hiring cycles for senior leadership have doubled in the past 2 years, and salaries have surged by 30 to 40% across SaaS, AI, and Fintech roles. So while capital and customers are plentiful, top-tier talent has become the new scarcity across the GCC. To unpack this, I'm joined by Cameron Sanders, co-founder of Camac Talent, a firm that connects the top 2% of GTM talents with SaaS, AI, cyber, and fintech companies across EMEA, APAC, and North America. Cameron and his team specialize in placing CROs, VPs of the sales, pre-sales, and other leaders who build real revenue engines. Cameron, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Ali.
So let's start with you. You started your career on the ground floor as a BDR in a public SaaS company before founding Camac Talent. When did you realize that hiring the right people is often the line between scaling and stalling?
So it was actually before 8x8. I was in sales recruitment for a company called Michael Page, working across the APAC region. So I had experience from the recruiting side, but then, once I went into 8x8, I saw the kind of direct impact, not only of a hiring process, but of hiring the wrong people, and what that has on the full team. Because I was the only founding BDR, I was the only BDR for a specific product suite after an acquisition. So we needed the right people in place, right? We needed the right SE, we needed the right AEs, because I was the one generating all the leads. So as much as, talent is very important, of course, that's the industry we work in. I learned that having the right, go-to-market ready products and sort of demand generation plan and marketing function is just as important as the talent, if that makes sense.
Right, that's so true. So founders often underestimate how much a single strategic hire can change their growth curve. Let's particularly talk about the GCC. There is record funding, an AI gold rush, and new SaaS startups launching every month. Yet there is also a massive talent bottleneck. So Manpower Group's workforce report shows that 8 in 10 tech companies across the GCC can't find skilled candidates, and hiring timelines are stretching by over 50%. From your vantage point, what's driving this shortage, and what are the biggest hiring mistakes you see founders in Dubai, Riyadh, Doha making right now?
I think the growth in, as you just pointed out, Ali, the growth in SaaS and AI in the GCC is kind of, I guess it's outpacing the maturity of the sort of local talent pool. And I think in terms of go-to-market hiring specifically, things like sales methodology and sales enablement aren't at the place they need to be in the GCC. So, you don't, in Europe and the US, as every enterprise AE is medic trained, medpic trained. They have that methodology of selling, and that's not here yet. And you don't have revenue operations or sales enablement on the ground to actually train those methodologies. So I think in terms of the first point of your question, I think, medic, sales methodology, and revenue operations isn't yet here, or it's just getting here. And then in terms of hiring mistakes, a big point is on founders focus too much on candidates that have local experience and candidates that speak the native tongue over talent. I think that's the biggest thing that I've noticed, and we're trying to kind of create that shift of mentality that, someone doesn't have to have sold into the region and speak the language to actually be the best candidate, and we try and flip it. If someone sold a competing product in Europe, they're technically actually 3 or 4 years ahead because they know what's coming, rather than they speak the language and have sold into this region, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So many founders here in GCC spend tens of thousands of driving leads, but don't invest the same energy into, let's say, building teams that can actually convert them. So tell me, what's one data point or red flag that tells you a SaaS company is scaling without the right talent foundation?
I think compensation, to be honest with you. A lot of companies in the UAE have started doing it. It's gone from 20 years ago, kind of how Saudi is now in Dubai, where, you know, they'll pay as much money as you want. They'll pay your schooling and relocation to get people into the region. There's a real big shift in the UAE now because everyone wants to be here, right? With everything that's going on in Europe, everyone wants to come to Dubai. So there's been that mentality shift where companies know that they're wanted rather than needed. So they're not paying as much and they're taking advantage of the tax-free income. So the big thing I've noticed, especially about local businesses, I'm not talking about US, European and APAC-born businesses entering. It's more the local businesses that are trying to scale aren't paying the money to get the right talent, and therefore they're falling short. And it goes back to everything we spoke about offline, Ali. You know, the cost of making a bad hire is more than paying the right salary. So I think actual compensation is a big one.
Right. Okay. So let's get technical. Suppose a SaaS company in Dubai or Riyadh just hit 1 million ARR and wants to scale to 5 million. What's the ideal GTM hiring roadmap? Who should they bring in first and when?
Yeah, 100%. I'd always advise working up and down. So from the leader down to BDRs. So, you know, definitely the two strategic hires should be a senior marketing hire and a senior commercial hire who can partner on a go-to-market plan for the region and then hire underneath. Because a lot of companies will, you know, go cheap, hire a load of SDRs, hire a load of AEs, but then they can't deliver. Whereas if you find someone who can actually strategize, find a go-to-market strategy, then have a marketing strategist to actually create everything from the content to the growth marketing, and then the sales hire will actually execute. You can then hire your way down rather than going the other way around. And touching on before, I think revenue operations, it's not spoken about enough. When I was in an SDR, they were invaluable, and I really think they need to come to this region, and we need to get them here, essentially.
Right. That's a great line. Builders before scalers. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
Now, one of the biggest debates across the region, should founders hire locally or import global talent? Because we are seeing tech SMEs relocating from London, Hong Kong, Singapore, but local market knowledge is invaluable. How do you balance the two?
Yeah, it's a tough question because it kind of caveats what I said earlier. You know, in an ideal world, Ali, we have someone that sold a competing product into the region, speaks the local language. That's the unicorn of candidate in the GTM world, is someone that's done everything. I think a mix is good, as I touched on before. Someone that's been in markets that are generally 5, 6, 7 years ahead of the Middle East are invaluable, in my opinion. So having someone, you know, who's locally experienced obviously has its benefits, but then having someone who's been in a much mature market also has its plus points. So I definitely think a mixture of the two. As a recruiter, obviously, you know, having someone here already is much easier because there's a lot more things that you have to think about when relocating. So they just have to bear in mind that if they're looking for a really niche skill set, they might have to go out of region. But along with that, you know, you might have to relocate someone and their family, etc.
Right, makes sense. And cost-wise, the average VP sales salary in the GCC is now 25 to 30% higher than in Europe or APAC. How can founders stay competitive without overspending?
Yeah, I think, look, there's a number of reasons why candidates want to join a new company or are looking. And compensation's actually not in the top three. It's actually, they want a strong leadership team. They want an A-class product, so they want to sell the best product in the market, and they want a huge addressable market. So they don't want a massive competitive landscape. So I think if you can focus on those three things and, growth trajectory for this individual, rather than just compensation, that's how you can attract the right people. So, whether it's a growth plan to get to leadership, or a number of different things, rather than focusing on the money, there's other things. And leadership's huge, right? People want to work for people that they almost want to get to. They want to get to that level. So yeah, those three things I'd focus on over money.
Right. Okay. So you work across AI, cyber, and fintech companies, and now AI itself is disrupting how we hire. So I would like to take your input. How is AI changing the way GCC companies identify and evaluate GTM talent?
Look, I'm a strong believer that it's never going to replace us. Sales hiring, a lot of it's personable. You have to be able to read people. There's a lot of BS in the industry that I don't think AI is emotionally ever going to be able to read. To caveat that, though, I think that everyone needs to accept that AI has a place in the world now, and if you don't work with it, it will work against you and it will leave you behind. So we do use AI tools in our company, but mainly to help us with manual tasks. I personally never want any of my consultants having an AI tool interviewing candidates, because I feel like the whole reason we started the company was because of the lack of service in the industry that we learned across, working in APAC and working in Europe, that we wanted to bring into this region. So we wanted to put service first. And I feel like if you replace yourself with AI, you're kind of diluting that message. So I guess a long-winded answer is it's there to stay. You might as well use it to your advantage, but it won't replace us, in my opinion.
Right. But you can use AI to do repeated boring tasks.
Really, 100%. And look, this isn't just GTM and SaaS wide. This is globally. You're going to enter any website, any phone call, everything. There's going to be an AI agent in front of it now. So you may as well get ahead of the curve, start using it as a competitive advantage. But yeah, I think there is a line that needs to be drawn where we need to actually jump in and be humans, right?
Right. Exactly. So people, they love stories. Can you share a real story, maybe from a SaaS, Fintech, or AI company in the GCC where a hiring decision made or broke their growth?
Yeah, look, I mean, there's a number. It goes back to what I said about, hiring from the top down. We generally, our sweet spot is helping companies from pre-seed to Series C. We go through that journey with them. We go through those rounds of funding with them. And obviously, because we're revenue first recruitment, the hiring we make, we really feel has an impact on the business, because it brings the money in, essentially. So yeah, I can remember a seed funded fintech. We brought the VP of sales from the UK over, and then we actually watched them flourish and go through their rounds. They don't use us anymore, but they're now Series C. And we built the full GTM team for them. So yeah, the stories like that, I mean, it makes us, feel like we actually bring value to businesses, because we're not just CV senders. We're not just, a third party. We feel like we're a real extension of their team, and we're real growth partners rather than just a recruitment agency, if that makes sense.
Right. That's a great case study. So the wrong hire can cost 6 months of runway, but the right one can unlock years of growth.
Absolutely.
Let's close with a lightning round for founders in the UAE and GCC. For a SaaS startup at 1 million ARR, what is the must-hire role? I think you explained, but you can elaborate a bit.
Yeah, I think this is what I learned it as a founding BDR. So just to give you a bit of background, I worked for a company called 8x8. They acquired a company called WaveCell. So they're traditionally CCaaS and UCaaS, and they wanted to enter the CPaaS world. I was the founding BDR for EMEA. the only BDR for this product suite. We have one SE, one AE, VP of sales. And I think that marketing was so integral because, we were up against Twilio, MessageBird, all the big communication API players. And had we not had a specific demand gen team helping us, it would have just been me, during COVID in front of my laptop, cold calling all day, every day. So it's not just about, generating leads. It's about the actual marketing collateral that we take onto meetings and the sales messaging we take out to market. So a long-winded answer of, I think marketing is key in a GTM function. SDRs traditionally should sit with marketing. And marketing is a revenue generating role. So it sits in that GTM function. And I feel like it sometimes gets put to one side. And I feel like a strategic marketing hire can make or break a business.
Right. Okay. Very insightful. So another important question. At 5 million ARR, what is the most common GTM mistakes companies make?
I'd probably say at this point, some companies will hire nice to haves rather than must haves. So, make sure that you're not just hiring people as a bonus, that you actually need them, rather than just a bum on seat. So I think it's all about strategic planning and planning ahead rather than, I've been involved with companies that have scaled extremely quickly in terms of revenue, but then they've not actually strategized for that money and where it should go in the next 12, 18, 24 months. So it's really about having a long-term plan, not only for, goals of revenue, but goals of hiring. It needs to be in that roadmap.
Right. And let's say they hit 10 million ARR. How should their talent strategy evolve then?
It kind of adds on to what I just spoke about. All of this comes with experience. I'd imagine at 10 mil ARR, they've gone through rounds of funding. They've got VCs involved at this point. They might even have their own talent team internally. So I'd hope at this point that, their strategy of hiring would improve, but also their process of hiring. Actually being able to take their company out to market and be attractive, because it's a really competitive space. And I think there's a common misconception, that, candidates are interviewing for your company, but it should be the other way around as well. They are evaluating you as much as you're evaluating them. And it's our job as recruiters to represent both parties as best as we can. So I'd hope at 10 mil ARR, they would have evolved into, having a full process in place that not only interviews the candidate correctly, feedbacks the candidate correctly, but actually onboards them and aftercares them correctly, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, that's brilliant. And as per you, what's one leadership mindset that separates top GTM executives from the rest?
A leadership mindset. I'd probably say from the executives that I've met, including yourself, it's the ability to be able to adjust to the people that you're managing. There's going to be people that need emotional support. There's going to be people that, need a bit of tough love. And I find that the best leaders understand that and don't use the one size fits all methodology, the old school methodology. And they learn to get the best out of each individual across their function. And also delegation, I think, is key. So learning to delegate and being able to delegate to the second line managers in your team. So they're the two things. Sorry, I know that you only asked for one.
That's valuable input. So finally, for SaaS, AI, or Fintech founders listening from across the UAE and GCC, how can they connect with you or Camac Talent, or if they're ready to build their GTM team or need help scaling their leadership bench? Are you active on LinkedIn or other social media?
Yeah, LinkedIn's our bread and butter. We're on LinkedIn all day, every day. We're very active with, what we're doing and the sort of roles we're working. So yeah, reach out to me or any of the team via LinkedIn, and we'd be more than happy to have a conversation and see if we can point you in the right direction.
Right. So Cameron, this has been a masterclass in growth through people. To every SaaS founders and investor listening, if your numbers have plateaued, maybe it is not your funnel or your product, maybe it's your talent engine. Remember, strategy sets direction, but people determine speed. Cameron, I really enjoyed this discussion. Thanks for coming to the show.
Thank you for having me, Ali. Really enjoyed talking to you.
And to our listeners across the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and beyond, keep scaling smarter, keep building stronger teams, and never forget, growth starts with people. Thank you.